composer, composing films from all around the world. And today we are very lucky to have him to interview and pick his brain and show us some of the stuff that he has done and just help us along. But anyway, let me get right to it. So everyone, put your hands together for my man, Michael Vignola. I don't have any effects for the claps. So here we go. What's up,
Okay.
Mike? What's up,
What's
baby?
going on? Thanks for having me.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah,
Thanks for giving us your time, man. I really appreciate this.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So I introduced you as being like really a problem. No, I was just playing.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, yeah, man. I mean, first of all, I want to let everyone know and share my thoughts about how much you helped me several years ago when I started my independent film with no money and just a bunch of people that just loved the story and wanted to complete a project, and you helped us along. Um, you know, just making the film feel the way we always wanted to feel, and your composition really gave that layer of body that we needed to really tell the story. So I want to thank you, and everyone in the world of worlds want to thank you from the bottom of our heart. That's a big deal for us. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, and so, but after that, you just went off and whatnot and became a multi-award winning composer, composing
Mhm.
films from all around the world. And today, man, I know you got a lot of people out there who are interested in being composers in the film industry and that don't know really how to start. And it's just great to have you here with us to kind of share with us like the journey and and questions that we may have. And the first thing I know that people want to know is, yo, where you come from? Like, who are
I
you?
don't know. No, well,
Yeah, how you
you know,
start, man? How did you start all this? Like, how did it
well,
start?
yeah, well, music's always been in my life ever since I'm young. I was always interested in sound and how it works, and that curiosity led me to playing in bands. I started playing piano when I was really young. And I kind of self-taught myself some things in guitar. Then I went into playing music for bands from there. So in my young teens, 17, 18, I started playing out, playing shows, gigged for 10 years, while also always having in the back of my head, I always kind of wanted to I was always interested in orchestral music and stuff like that as well. And people were like, oh, your stuff sounds like it should be in film and things like that. So I kind of started that journey with film scoring a bit after the band stuff, um, around 2015. That's kind of when I started scoring, getting into film and learning all about that stuff. And then from there, it kind of just took off. And yeah, with got into like a lot of music licensing stuff and sync placements and things like that too.
Oh wow. Okay,
Yeah.
so well, it's funny because what kind of music did you do before this?
Well, it was like, my background is comes from bands like Metallica, and then it goes into like bands like Coheed and Cambria and Glassjaw and like a lot of different like indie band stuff and
Oh,
progressive rock kind of
right.
stuff. And
Okay. So you
um
was kind of like a metalhead a little bit, weren't you?
yeah, yeah, like I listen to Coldplay, I listen to a lot of different things, but yeah, mainly like the stuff that I was writing
Mm,
as a guitarist was very progressive, and just kind of evolved from there, and then
right.
bringing that kind of mindset into film scoring and working with, you know, virtual instruments and all that kind of stuff. And, it kind of lends, I think it's just a unique perspective. It's not really, I wasn't listening to music, scores or anything like that getting before I
Right.
started really.
Right. Because most
It
people
just
most
kind of,
people
I just
think
kind of fell into it because it's just something I was always interested in pursuing too.
yeah, I mean you're
Yeah,
pretty a lot of people think that you just start you started scoring from the age of two or something. Like
right.
it just started that way, and most musicians don't. They just start in different kind of music, and you start getting
Right.
interested in this and say, okay, I think I
Yeah.
can do this. And also, people interested and just want to just say, hey, listen, I think your sound could fit us, and I guess you kind of rolled into that, right? And
Right. Yeah, so, like, a lot of my stuff now, a lot of it's pretty versatile, but it more sits in the ambient kind of, neoclassical kind of realm, that
mm,
kind of genre, but I'm also can do like with like a World of Worlds, we were doing action, and that's a lot of fun too. And I bring a lot of that kind of percussive and energetic nature from my background into that, into
Right.
the writing for that kind of those kind of scenes and things like that. You know, yeah.
No, that's amazing, man. For real. I mean, and being that you started, getting into film and everything else, and it's funny, like any job, the first one is always like sometimes can be the most difficult, or just trying to understand,
Hmm.
plant your feet, what to do, what to say. How was your first gig, like your very first one? Like, how was that?
Yeah,
When
it was like that was a fun experience. I was with the way I got started was reaching out to film students working on maybe at a film school or they're getting their end thesis together like at the end of the year. And I worked with a couple of people that way and got my feet wet. Um, and yeah, the first one went really well. It was a great experience. We actually won an award. I actually won a best soundtrack award for the first
for the
score I
first
ever
time,
did for.
like,
They
geez.
did a very limited festival run, but it was
Right.
actually really it was really like oh this was like oh okay maybe I got I got something here and just kind of kept pursuing from there. And you were the me you were maybe one of the third very beginning stages when I started working as a
Wow.
composer. You were like one of the first two, maybe the third or
Right.
fourth project at the time. So
Wow. Yeah,
you
yeah. 'Cause
know
remember when I
that
met you,
was
and you just started, so.
yeah we were just I was just getting started.
I know, that's right.
Yeah,
And remember we met up in Staten Island.
yeah, that's where I grew up. Yeah,
Exactly. And I'm a New Yorker, so it was
yeah,
like when I was staying in I was in Florida, and yeah, just came by Staten Island and visit you, and it was just like
yeah. It was fun. It was a
it was
fun
fun,
experience.
man. We
Picked you
came
up at the ferry.
yeah, had the ferry and whatnot. I
Yeah,
was like, I
yeah.
gotta meet this composer guy. I hope he's sane. I don't know. Or maybe I come
Oh
back.
no.
Who knows? But
Let's
it
scope this
was
out.
fun. Yeah, that was awesome, man. That was awesome
Yeah,
to
it's
sit
fun.
there and actually see like the work that you do, like the prep,
Yeah, got to see
that's
yep.
putting things together, and what software you use. Like for
Mhm.
example, so people like to know too, like what type of software you recommend, like for stars, like what do you use actually?
Yeah, so I mean, typically composers, they'll work in a DAW, digital audio workstation. So software like Cubase, Logic. I use Pro Tools, and other
Okay.
people they'll use Ableton Live, Ableton. That's really great for sound design. But you start in a DAW, and you're able to import the film into the session, so you can watch the session and put notes in and kind of write to what you're seeing.
Oh, that's cool. So it's kind of
Yeah.
with the story, like you're syncing the sound
Yeah, so it
with.
sinks in. It's like a kind of like an editing suite when you're editing as a filmmaker. It's the same thing, but with music. You're writing the music as you see the cut. As you see as you're watching, and you can. That's how you're able to kind of place things and see where things go.
Right. So you're kind of
Yeah.
shaping it, and
Right.
shaping music to each scene, right?
Right.
How did you how's it working? What's your process of working with a director? When someone comes to you and wants you to do music, like what's the process on that?
Yeah. So process for working with a director for a composer. Typically, the director has something in mind. They have ideas and feelings they want to portray. So what we'll do is we'll import the rough a cut or a fine cut, something close to lock. If it's early stages, preferably a lock, but it's always that's okay. Just to kind of like go through it together and kind of like a live session if it's remote.
So hold
And
on, go
yeah.
back. What's the lock so that people know what a lock
Oh
is?
yeah, so lock cut is when the cut isn't going to change anymore. So as a composer, that's really great to have if it's possible. Sometimes lock cuts change, so timing of a cut might be a little shorter or longer. But having a lock cut is definitely preferable. It just depends on how early on you want to bring the composer in. Um, but yeah, that's basically what a lock cut is. The cut's not going to change. The director's pretty much this is how it is kind of thing.
Okay, and that helps. Yeah,
Yeah.
that helps kind of lock the timing and everything
Right.
uh, together
Yeah,
well.
so it's all timing. So if you're writing something and the time changes dramatically, it's a lot more work for the composer to rework the scene, which is fine if it happens, but which it does, which it has, and it's not a
Right.
big deal. But to work with something as close to lock as possible.
Okay.
You know.
I know everyone that you work with. do you see like a common thread, which every with every project that you came across and worked with? Is there a common thread that you say, okay, this has to be done every time, or you know, something somewhere along those lines?
I think every project's definitely like different because everyone has different workflows or the way they like to work or how they like to give notes. Um, but yeah, I think it's just kind of like listening to the director, and it's a collaboration, and just kind of finding that middle ground to collaborate together. So everyone's a little bit different.
What do you prefer when it comes down to watching the film? Like when a film is done, do you like to see the completed film, the whole thing, or you just concerned about the points on where the director wants you to lay a track down?
No, I like to see. I mean, if there's sound design being done, like with Foley or atmosphere sounds or things like that, I like to work closely with the sound designer too, just so we make sure that ideas aren't clashing or a specific key isn't sitting well with the atmosphere, or with a transition sound or anything like that. So working closely with the sound designer, Foley artist, or things like that, just to make sure things aren't going to get in the way. As far as like scoring and things like that.
Right, it sounds all like a jungle one night, you know. They're
Yeah,
just
so you want to make sure. Yeah, so I like having. I really lend to like. I really kind of want the score to melt into the scenes. So having the atmosphere is and just the tone of the dialogue and all that kind of stuff is important to how you're going to approach scoring the film too.
mm,
Yeah, especially with the cuts and how things move and timing and things like that.
timing. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Is there like everyone has a sound. Do you feel you have a sound?
Yeah, I think so. It's definitely in the kind of minimalist kind of realm. I like to have like ostinatos repeating kind of melodies and things like that. So yeah, there's definitely a kind of sound to my work for sure. Yeah.
Definitely, you can
Yeah,
always
that's
tell.
the kind of like that's kind of where I sit. I'm not, I do a lot of different things, but I tend to, be in a specific space.
And I think
Yeah.
that's the thing. I know when I hear your piece, I know it's like a Vignola piece, and I think a lot of people always know a sound of an artist, and
Hmm.
yours actually shines through. So I definitely know that. But having the sound and everything, is there a everyone has an instrument that they really like that one little piece that like
Hmm.
they go to. It kind of puts them back into balance. Sometimes is there a particular instrument or sound you say, you know what, just in case I'm a little off, I got to have this sound in there. I just love this piece. It kind of it just flows with a lot of different projects.
Yeah, I think I like using a lot of textures and for scenes for like bed music. So a lot of string texture stuff is really great to use and synth textures.
Right.
So those I like to go to. It just depends on what the director is looking for as well. If they don't want like string textures, we'll do something else. We'll work something else out.
Right.
But those tend to lend really well, and just kind of mixing that together with sound design on my end.
No, that sounds good. I mean, that's it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You being a composer, dealing with a lot of people, as myself, as a director, dealing with a lot of people and personalities. What is what is something that you just want the directors out there to know about composers that you just don't really hear? Like, guys, you gotta help us out here.
Yeah, I think it's important. I know sometimes, it depends on like so when you're working with like low budget indie stuff,
Yeah.
especially like in the beginning days, you want to get someone on, but you also want to make sure that the composer is kind of in the style that you like, or
Mm,
or you don't want to send the composer like this crazy orchestral thing and they do electronic music. So you want to make sure you're taking the time to get to know the composer before you actually bring them on board. So there's a better chance of that there are less creative differences.
right.
So you're kind of more on the same page. It'd be good if you like their music too. If you find it, that's a good one to kind
It'd
of.
be nice if
So
you
that
like this stuff, right?
yeah. So you're reaching out to composers that you admire their work or things like that, and you have something to kind of build off. They're going to feel heard, and you're not just looking for something
Mm,
because it's like the budget's low or something like that. So that goes a long way. Um, And temp music is a big thing for composers. So temp music is when you're temping someone else's music into a scene to kind of explain what you're looking for. It's
Right.
kind of unavoidable in this in the scene, in the in the industry, because directors are going to want to show composers what they're thinking, because they think it's like hard to explain. So I find it better to it's the composer's job to listen to what you have to say,
Mhm.
and then convert that into sound and into a score. So I think starting without temp music is always better, because what temp music can do is kind of put you in a box. But
Yes.
we it's not, I'm not against it, but I'm definitely for, it can kind of stifle creativity if you're putting temp music in, but and you're bringing a composer in, because you don't want to mimic that stuff either. You want to write something unique and something that lends to your story, inspired by how you're describing it and how the composer is going to interpret that into the scene.
Yeah, there's
'Cause-
something you told me a while ago, and
Yeah,
I love this quote that you said, where if a lot of times if a director doesn't really know how to verbally describe the sound that they're looking for, I remember you always said, "Don't worry about trying to describe or speak my language. Just tell me what you want to feel on that scene
right,
moment."
right,
And that's easier for me to kind of
right,
understand. Okay, this is where I have to go. So I guess you could say that directors out there, if you can't verbally describe it,
right.
just tell Michael what you want him to feel in this scene, right?
Right, that's what's the most important thing. What do you want it to feel like? And then we can create sounds that kind of invoke that feeling, and you go, maybe, yeah, maybe something else, or not this, or I like this part. Let's do more of this. So it's kind of like this kind of evolution in developing the sound.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. I mean, because it's all about feel. I
right.
mean, the music does help the audience know what's happening in that moment.
Yeah, I think that's where you always want to start, with the feeling. The temp music, sure, maybe for your cut, but take it out before you send it to the composer,
Yeah,
and talk
no
to them
trap
how you
music.
want it to feel. And if there's some, if there's some issues, maybe
Yeah,
maybe give the temp, but just always start
yeah.
without it, because you
I
want to have
just
you want something unique, you
Exactly.
know?
Because one thing about temp music, and I agree with you, Michael, and I'm a big proponent of this too. Like, I don't like like to give it a composer temp music, because people understand, like, oh, why can't I just give them temp music and they'll know and get a good idea. But I say, understand the process of you even giving a composer temp music. That means you went ahead, listened to this sound over and over, put it
Yeah.
together over hours onto this scene or scenes, and then so now it's baked in your head. And now when you
Yeah,
give
that
it
can
to
happen.
Michael, if Michael didn't come with a tone close to that, you could be missing magic because
Right,
you're so entrenched in
right.
that sound.
Yeah, it's
So
also
I
feeding
understand.
off the actors too, what they're gonna pull out of the
Right.
composer, how the scene, the color of the scene, and then also describing the feeling you want. That all plays into the creation of the score. And it's important to remember. If you are temping, just remember it's the feeling, not the sound. So then take it out and explain the feeling before anything else, I think.
I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. That's another good one I'm gonna try. I'm gonna keep that in mind too.
Mhm.
Not the sound, it's the feeling. I like that, yo. Um, doing everything that you worked with so far, all these years, what is something that you just won't do again?
Oh,
Not anybody in particular. I'm just saying in general, like, what's something that you say,
hmm,
I learned from this. I won't do this again. It
let's
doesn't work.
let me say, I don't know, maybe, maybe doing like talking head scores where people are just talking, you're writing a score to like a interview.
Oh,
That's, like that kind of stuff.
that's just people just talking, and you just
Yeah, and you
you
just, like, kinda
listen
writing,
to
I was like,
back to
that's kind of like,
yeah,
that's work. That's kind of, it's a job. It could be fun, but,
right,
that's what, like, kinda stock that's why you write stock music, and stock music is really good for that stuff. But if they want, you can score, like, if it's documentary style, that's cool.
right, right.
It just depends on how it's presented. I'm not against it, but I really do enjoy the more creative stuff, with film and where you can take it, the
No,
imaginary.
I get that. I get that.
Yeah. But other
Yeah,
than that, really, I mean, I'm not against it, but yeah. I mean,
no.
maybe something like that, that comes to mind.
Tell me this, Mike. What's something that yourself personally that you say, "Oh, I won't do that for myself again." Like, something that you did that maybe other composers should know about. Like, man, just don't do this. I tried it, didn't work. It's not a good idea. Just don't do it.
Mhm.
What do you think?
Nothing really coming to mind that I've done where I was like, "Oh, I shouldn't do that again." Maybe taking things on for less than you should, less
Okay,
budget,
okay, okay.
right?
No
Less
worth, right?
budget,
No worth,
like
right?
taking things on all like, um, and passing on certain things if it's not gonna depending on the project. It's very specific, but maybe something like that.
Mm,
But in the beginning days, if you're looking to get your feet wet, you need to do things for almost nothing to get the experience or
mm.
nothing at all, especially in the very beginning, especially with young, indie filmmakers and things like that. You know,
Well, no, no, that's good because like anything else, you need reps. you
yeah,
know, you need reps before you can go out there and say, okay, listen, whatever
yeah, and for
experience,
a long time, you got to be
and it helps you
patient.
get to know yourself too, right?
Yeah,
Right. So I get that. That's perfect. And
right,
with all of this, with everything you're doing, there's contracts involved, right?
right.
So what kind of contracts do you normally deal with and put together?
Yeah. So for like indie music stuff and filmmakers just kind of looking to do a festival run, depending on budget, um, we'll do a license where I'll retain the licensing,
Mm,
but I'm scoring the film. Essentially producing the score because the budget's so low. So I retain the rights to the music, and I can, maybe after a year or two, I can start licensing it for other opportunities, for on music publishing sites like Artlist or Story Blocks or Universal or any kind of company that places music, so you can use that. So there's
right.
an understanding at the beginning. If the budget, it just depends on the budget the project itself.
Mm,
So for people coming in for music festivals and things, typically that's kind of how I set it up so they understand, kind of understand right off the bat, and make sure they're okay and we're on the same page. And if they're not, then you just kind of discuss what the middle ground is from there. You know,
okay. So you get exclusive and non-exclusive contract.
yeah. Typically, it'll be a non-exclusive for like low budget indie stuff. It just
Right.
depends on budget. And that's what filmmakers have to understand too. Depending on your budget, you're getting a custom score from a composer,
Mm,
but they retain the master copy, to the music so they can have other opportunities later somewhere else. It just depends on what the filmmaker is looking for.
well, that's
Yeah,
good. I mean, that's fair. I mean,
yeah,
that's fair.
yeah,
Especially if you can't really pay. Everybody's helping each other out. I mean, we all
right,
try to the same place. So as long as you get the material that you need and the person, if they can
right.
do
Yeah, and
also,
this is for people just starting out and things like that.
I think
That's
I'm
what I would expect, from composers and filmmakers in that kind of space to kind of understand going in.
no, that
Yeah,
I mean that's and it should be that way. I mean,
yeah,
it's easier that way too because you don't want to make it too complicated. Because
right.
contracts get complicated. Just
Yeah,
every
it's simple. Yeah, pretty
what
straight.
kind of what other are there other clauses that say for someone out there who's getting who's getting a contract for the first time about but is there a clause that you would say you should have in there no matter what is
Yeah, I
that the
think if you're writing to the score, I think you should give the music, the licensing for the music to be used in the film a couple years, at least 2 years from its festival run,
mm,
before you do anything else with it. That's one thing I think is important, and it definitely helps filmmakers feel more comfortable bringing you on too as a composer because you're going to give them at least some time, even if there's no budget, before you start licensing the music if you do,
gotcha.
depending on budget.
Well, that's nice. I mean,
Yeah,
I like that. That's cool. It gives them time to have their own for a little while. That
yeah,
they're only going to hear that music off of their film.
right.
That's nice.
Yeah, and also you can offer an extension where, like, after the 2 years, if they want to extend it, they can for a fee, on that end too. And if they want to buy it out, if it gets picked up and it does really well, and they want to, you can set it up that way too. So there's a bunch of different ways to approach it,
I
on
like.
that end. You know,
Yeah, that's a good idea. I like that. You don't really hear about that too much, but that's a really great idea, and that's
Yeah,
very considerate too.
yeah,
To give us
yeah.
some
Because
time.
a lot of stuff I worked on in the beginning, I was able to, license, and I was able to, as a composer, at least make a kind of recurrent kind of income from the royalties of it as well.
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, you did that with me a little bit too. So that's such a great idea. I was like, oh man, that's nice. Thank
Yeah.
you. I appreciate that.
Mhm.
And let's see. There's something here I want to say. Oh, yes, yes. So I know that for a while now, right? You've been doing this for how long now, Mike?
Oh, 10 years?
Wow, 10 years.
10 years? Going on 10, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because I started mine about 9 years ago. Yeah,
Mhm.
I was eight. Wow, it's a long time. Time flies, Mike. Jeez,
Yeah.
we getting old,
It's
man.
a long time.
We getting
Yeah.
up there. Damn, 10 years. No, that's
Mhm.
good. That's good. Do you have do you have any plans? I mean, I know right now you have something that you're actually, you know what? Before we get into something I want to surprise the audience with about what you're doing, like
Mhm.
your new, like, you know, like a new journey that you're in, I want to show people some of the work that you've done
Yeah,
in the past so they can see what you're talking about when it comes down to not only like how to put a section together, but to also show them what software you're using. Like, what
sure.
does it look like? Like, what does it look like? So
Yeah,
let's do that. I want to let me see if I can have this here. Hold on, I'm gonna. All right, there we go. Cool. So yeah, explain. So explain what we're seeing here.
absolutely. Yeah, so this is my DAW, this is my digital audio workstation, this is in Pro Tools, and so basically I have the film is imported here into the session,
Hmm.
and, I'll write to the film, to picture, with this software.
Okay. Okay. How does that software sync with the film? Like,
Yeah.
how do we see?
So typically this is a cut. Sometimes you'll have a cut with the timing here. So you have that, but I have it here.
Hmm.
So if I play through, this is all MIDI information here. So this is I work with virtual instruments on some cases, depending on budgets and things like that. And I develop my own sample libraries. So this is a cosmic horror film called It Stares Back, um, directed by Matt Sears. We worked on this a couple years ago. This was a really fun project. And we'll do a spotting session, and basically I'll use virtual instruments. They look like this.
Where?
Let's pull up a virtual instrument.
Oh,
So this is a virtual instrument that I've developed myself called
okay.
Quantum. It's a synth kind of texture library for my I have a sample library company called Emergence Audio, and I've been spending a lot of time kind of doing this kind of stuff as well. So this is like software I've developed myself and use to write the scenes with. So basically, if I'm playing through the scene, we'll do a spotting session first, which I could go into a little bit more. But then this stuff is used to actually I record and sample, and then use this. It's called a sampler. It's called Contact by Native Instruments, and it's a sampler that I can import recordings into and play on a keyboard and kind of create sounds with that
Oh,
and a
that's great.
score
So
with that.
this here is like a sound that you can actually just it's just a sound you can put on your keyboard, like you said, or an instrument, and then use
Yeah.
it and
So
manipulate it however you need it to be at it. And this is
right.
what you create. Like you create these sounds.
Right. I created this from scratch myself. And then there's other sample libraries composers will use that they just use from other companies and things like that. But this I used all my sample libraries to score this
Oh
film.
wow, look at that.
So, and this is just me soloing it. So this has a very ominous kind of tone because it's a horror kind of cosmic horror based stuff.
Right. That sounds good.
Yeah,
Let's see. Let's okay. You know what? Play a section. Let's hear it like all together and what you put to this film.
sure, sure. Let's see. So this is the part where she's talking to this deity, cosmic horror type kind of
Yeah.
vibe going. I'll play through it for a minute.
Last week, I lost Steve. It wasn't peaceful. It was slow, painful. He died a horrible death. Left me thinking How could something like this happen? How could you let something like this happen after I've dedicated my life to after I've dedicated my life to following you?
And you'll see notes here
And I've
during our
been
spotting session.
watching.
I've put notes
Yeah. Okay.
I've been
and with the
watching
director, what they're
Right.
looking for.
Give me something.
These little yellow lines are
What are the
markers.
yellow lines? Yeah.
Yeah, those are markers. So what I'll do is typically I'll put a note in. You can see it gets hidden behind here, but it'll be a note you can
Oh,
do,
Oh,
and then mark,
I
and
like
then
this.
as you're talking with the director, put some notes in on what they're
I
looking
have
for.
nothing but time
Cuts where things are
and
cutting.
nothing else.
So
right.
there's a bunch of stuff you can use for the
I have
markers.
given you
Oh,
everything.
good.
I have
That's.
dedicated
Oh
you
yeah. I mean, it's easy.
everything.
Yeah, I can see that. Now, the blue.
So I
What are
got
the blue lines? Those
That's
blue.
the MIDI. That's the MIDI. So
no,
it's a digital signal from your keyboard that's triggering the software to
I
play the
spent
music.
my whole life
So
following a blank
Gotcha.
keyboard.
yeah. So what you're
Now
seeing is
I find
this. It's
something
giving the information. The notes are being played down here on the keys.
but
So
you
when you
got
play,
nothing.
yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
it's getting a little intense now. No.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
There it goes. Yeah, hit the bass line. Uh-oh.
so this is where the sound design comes in too. So there's sound design in here as well as the score kind of working together.
Oh, and you know what? That's really so well done because can't really tell. Sounds like it's all the whole score. Like
Yeah, there's just a little bit there, but most of it, yeah. So you work. That's why it's important to have some of that in with it. If they're working with the sound designer, um, you want to make sure it's working together well. So that composer and sound designer usually work very closely together.
and I can see that because you don't really hear two two separate.
Right.
It just sounds like all in one. So yeah, that's it there.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the kind of
Wow,
gist of kind of like how you would work a scene, and you have a spotting session with the director beforehand, and watch it through together, and the director will chime in and talk through parts
nice.
of what their thought process is. Yeah.
That's good to know. What are some of the questions, essential questions that you would need to ask the director? Some things that you would say these are
Sure.
things you need to know. Like you need to ask them this before you.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to know why. I think that's really important to understand.
Okay.
Maybe some things that you don't by just watching the film you don't know, like maybe what the actor is going through, or some backstory, or why do you want the sound, or why do you want this part. So the meaning behind it is really important. So understanding that helps the composer um, kind of evoke that kind of vibe or feeling you're going for as well. So as much backstory or as much other stuff that you're not seeing in the film that they might not pick up on when they're watching it through for the first time. Things like that are really important, I think, to developing the tone of the score too.
Okay. Okay. What's another question you think you always want to ask a composer? I think I have one I would like to always ask.
Which what is that?
I
You
think we
tell you tell.
well, I would say, you know what? I think we brought it up before, but we'll just bring it up again. Like, have you heard my music?
Yeah.
You'd be surprised, right?
Yeah, that too. If they don't say anything about it in the beginning, maybe they didn't listen.
Uh,
But I mean, if you get to this point, hopefully that was all worked out beforehand.
right? If you
Yeah.
get this far in,
Yeah.
right? You're
You
like,
know,
yeah, you should have heard my
so
music
you should
by
be having a lot of conversations,
now.
before you
Yeah.
get into the spotting session.
So tell us more about the sounds that you the sounds that you make. the synthetic sounds. How does that work?
Yeah, so basically it's I just sample. I record here in my studio, and modern day composing, it depends on the composer. Some composers, I think it's important to work with, depending on budget, you can work with a soloist. You can bring if you're looking for strings, you can bring a soloist in to kind of bring more of that organic feeling into it.
Right.
But if you're creating stuff, if you're creating, you could also the composer could also record stuff and bring it into a sampler to play it digitally on the computer as well. So they'll
Yeah.
do maybe do both. I'm a guitarist, or I also do a lot of sound design with like synths and Euro rack systems, um, and bringing that all into the score as well. You know,
And when you make these sounds, do you what I mean? Making these sounds, how does that? How do you make the sounds? Do you just kind of get your instruments and just start to manipulate
yeah,
on
yeah.
them?
It's really yeah. It's kind of hard to kind of like, you don't really know what you're doing until you start. Sometimes you have a
Right.
feeling in how way you want to go with things. And it's just about like, I guess with anything, with like writing a script, it's a very similar thing where you have an idea where you want to go, but you don't know where it's going to go until you actually start writing it down on paper.
Yeah.
So that's a very similar process, to kind of when you're scoring. You don't really know. You have an idea, and sometimes you try the idea, and sometimes it'll work or it won't work.
What,
So it's just
what
about
made you
experimenting and kind of doing things like that.
what made you get into it? What made you start making sounds? What set it off?
I don't know. It's just a natural curiosity I think I've always
Huh.
had. You'll
Okay.
also like designing interfaces to be able to manipulate the sound the way you want it to, that I wasn't really getting from other sample libraries before when I started developing my own sample libraries. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that.
No, that's a
Yeah,
beautiful man.
yeah,
I mean, sounds. I mean, and having new sounds and just reaching into new flavor
yeah,
feelings, man. We're always looking for something. I mean, everybody's looking for that new flavor, that new feel, and
right,
you given that. That's awesome. That you just
yeah.
kind of wake up in the morning and
Thanks.
say, okay, I'm just going to try something, and then see what happens.
Right.
I guess, right?
Yeah, and that comes from conversations with the director, and it might give you an idea and trying, "Oh, hey, how about this?" Or maybe it's not something the director was thinking that you wanna try. So
Right.
I think it's important for the directors to have an open mind as well, to see where what the composer is talking about and just go, "Oh, yeah, try it, let's see if it works." And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work,
Yeah. Right.
stuff like that.
That's what's so great about. I mean, I love music, period, and having music composed around your work is not many independent filmmakers can say that. Some people just use stock, stock.
Yeah, and that's what gets tough with stock. Yeah,
Yeah, because you
very
can't shift
limiting.
it. Things don't pop in just right.
Yeah.
They don't drop in just right. So,
Yeah,
uh,
because there's not any really conscious decision on the music making part. You're kind of putting it in because it feels right. But
right.
when you have a composer come in, it's something conscious. It's something that's there's intent behind the scene now. And there's these, and you can tie themes in better. You can, like, you always hear a lot of music, there's themes. This certain sound is at this certain part when you see this certain character, um, and being able to weave that into another part that might be a little different, but the characters in it, and kind of weaving this theme through the whole film is something that's challenging to do with just stock music.
Do you
Very challenging.
prefer? Do you do you prefer to be like, say, if possible, on the set when they're filming a movie? Do composers come on the set, now, even before they make one tune? Just come on the set sometime just to kind of get a feel. Do they do
Yeah,
that?
why not? That'd be great. I haven't done that, but I
Hmm.
mean, I would definitely do that. Why not? It'd be really cool to see
Right.
being on set, and it might just seeing how things go. Sure, absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice. Yeah. I think that be kind of get a feel of what's happening and just
yeah,
body,
absolutely.
really kind of get in there. That's
Yeah, I
awesome.
think bringing a composer on as early as possible and just talking, I think's smart to do, because you can start even before the scene's cut. You can start working on just palettes of sound and templates, and just kind of they'll just write based on conversation,
Right.
and you can start doing it that way too. It's just all how where you start.
Yeah, I think that'd
But
be. Yeah, I could see that. Just it just you could start developing a tone
Yeah, you can get the tone, and when you have the tone, you can, when you have the key and the tone, you can take it anywhere you want, but you have that tone, and then when the cut comes, you can develop it even more from there.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a great lesson for a lot of indie filmmakers out there. Almost for anyone really, because a lot of
Yeah,
times, you don't really, and sometimes, you know what, you just don't have the opportunity to bring a composer, or sometimes people don't even think of bringing a composer onto a set and seeing the importance of that, knowing
right,
that the music is going to be 50% of the experience, and
right.
you know what I mean. That's a very important. So I think that's something that I think more filmmakers should do if they have the opportunity, especially if you're not, if you're close by, might as well bring you on the set if I'm going to use you. You might as well.
Yeah, you get to meet in person, you get to go, have a coffee or
Yeah,
something together,
yeah. Exactly. You know what I mean, to joke a little bit. Yeah, have a good
Yeah,
time and whatnot. I mean, this
yeah,
is something you guys are building together.
right.
So I think that's very very important.
Yeah, and they say, scoring is about 50% of
Hmm.
the film,
Yeah.
the sound, how it sounds.
Right, because people understand. Yeah, film. I mean, those tunes direct you, manipulates people's feelings. It tells them
Yeah,
what to feel a lot of times. Oh, you should be feeling this. If that's the case, and like, okay, I'm supposed to cry now. Oh, okay. You have all that manipulation going along with the
right.
music,
Yeah, you have those, like, you hear that when you hear something from, like, Jurassic Park and the score from Jurassic Park, or, like, Back to the Future, or
right?
anything like that. You're like, oh, it gives this nostalgic kind of feeling, and it reminds you of the film, and all that kind of stuff,
Right,
you know?
because you should be able to close your eyes, and that music alone can tell you where you are in the story. I think that's why shaping music,
Mhm,
I love, is that when the music is shaped really well, like you do, like in your
mhm.
films, I can close my eyes. I don't have to look at the visuals. I know I have a good idea what's happening in the scene,
Right.
and that's the power of shaping music to your scenes.
Mhm.
So I mean, you do that really, really well. So you just know, and that's how you know you have a good composer. So, and Michael
Thanks.
Vignola is one of those. I'm telling you guys right now, one
I
of the best.
try.
You do.
Yeah.
If people out there, if you ever see a film and it has Michael Vignola as the composer, test it. Do a test. Close your eyes. Don't even look at the film, and I bet you know exactly what's going on in that film. And when you turn around, I'm quite sure you're going to be right. And that's how you know you have a great composer. And there's one other thing too I want to bring up is everyone out there. Every composer is different, just like the music, just like the artists that you like music, just regular, like maybe a pop music artist or rock music artist. Film composers are the same. Well, because one does one type of film doesn't mean they can probably do the other one, but it's not what they do. And that's why it's very important for everyone out there before to pick anyone to do your music at all. Listen to their music, understand what they bring, and if it fits your film's feel and tone, then please reach out to them. But don't just because someone can play a guitar, they can score your film. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
So yeah, and I think that's something that me and Mike spoke about in the past. So I agree with that because you don't want to waste each other's time.
Right.
You don't want to be fighting and bickering about tone and feel and pace and everything else. And the composer says, well, I just don't, that's not the tone, that's not kind of work I do. Like, I don't do that type of music. It'd be
Yeah.
too late, then you guys be arguing. You don't want that. So please,
Right.
guys out there, when you actually reach out to these special artists, man, don't do that. Listen to
Right.
Mike first. If Mike fits you, then reach out to him. Okay, then you good. There's no discussion. It's just a matter of just let's move forward. Period. And get this going. So, but this is amazing, Mike. Everything you showed us, everything you explained, man, is vital for a lot of us filmmakers, independent filmmakers out there,
Mhm.
and everyone that's associated with GainesCon here in Las Vegas and the film festival. We really always want to just kind of showcase artists such as yourself, and just kind of give lessons on the little things you don't normally hear. You always hear the big stuff, but not the little things like, hey, how do you even discuss your work to another artist? Like, how do you
Mhm.
collaborate? Not
Right.
just pick somebody because of their resume, but you guys got to get along. You guys got to vibe. And
Right.
that's very important because if you don't vibe, it can make the entire project a mess. The project is already hard enough. So you don't need an extra layer of problems because you two can't get along or you didn't listen when you should have
Right. Right.
listened. So I think that's awesome. And then having you here, Mike, man, I want to thank you so much for being with us
Yeah,
today.
I appreciate it. I
Yeah,
appreciate
man,
you
thank you.
asking. Mhm.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, so now you're down with GainesCon. Yay!
Yes.
So, so yeah, I mean, so, but I definitely want you to come around again. We have our film festival this year in December that we're still putting together. We'd love to have you on board to speak to our audience live. Then you can, do you
Yeah,
mind
absolutely open to that. Absolutely.
be on
Yeah,
the big screen and whatnot?
absolutely.
Yeah, be like a 50-foot Vignola.
That's it.
Oh yeah, you know what I'm saying? So everyone out there, listen. If any, before we go, Mike, where can they find you? Where can they for your work?
Yeah, you can see my work at on any streaming platform, Spotify, a lot of stuff. I have a lot of my soundtracks on there. Also vignolamusic.com and my sample library company emergenceaudio.com.
Ah, cool. You know what I'm gonna do because we've got a time here. Hold on, give me a sec here. All right, so hold on. Sure. All right.
You
So
can contact me through there. Yeah.
can they see? Oh, you know what? Oh, there we go.
Hmm.
So this is your page, right? Micah
Yeah,
Vignola.
that's the Spotify playlist I just added on there. It's pretty straightforward stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Just to get a place to get in touch with me if you need to.
There you go. Yep. Subscribe. Please subscribe. And then here are like the filmographies. I want people to see this. Of
Hmm.
course, you can see him on IMDb. His work is on there. You
Yep.
go here, you can see the films that he's been on. You can over here, if you're not sure about going to different places, he has everything here on one page. You have to go to Spotify and all the other places. Everything
Hmm.
is here. You can check these out and the movies they're associated with.
Yeah, and
Uh,
just albums I might have released other than soundtracks too, so you can hear other work as
oh,
well. Yeah.
albums too. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, of course, here go to contact. Just reach out to him here.
Hmm.
Of course, all about his background. See him back in the days. Look at the hat. Look at that
That's
rock hat.
not me.
That's right. That's not true. Oh, no, it's
No, that's the
Carlos.
director.
Oh, whoops, whoops. That's Carlos. Kind of similar there. See that?
Yeah,
Synergy.
yeah.
More synergy. More testimonials. But yeah, I just wanted to share that so people can see, where they're going to find you.
Yeah,
So yeah, man. So thanks again, Mike, for being with us, man. Here at GainesCon Film Festival and GainesCon Media Incorporated. We really
yeah,
appreciate your time, bro.
absolutely. Happy to be
Yeah.
here. Thanks for
Thank you, man.
having me.
Thank you,
Yeah,
man. And we will be seeing you again in December. So everyone, hey, Mike's going to be with us in December, yo.
I'll be
So
there.
if you didn't see him today or for some reason, we'll check him out again for some more stuff and some new things in December. All right. All right, guys. I see you around. And everyone out there, we are still have submissions open. Early Bird is available. So we have an action film, a sci-fi film, a horror film, a fantasy film, short, 40 minutes or less. Please go to filmfreeway.com. Go ahead and enter so we can showcase your work to the world this year in Las Vegas. So join us, please. So we can't wait. Any more information from us, please just hit me up directly on any of my socials or go to GainesConMediaInc.org. And again, thank you again, Mike. And everyone out
Thank you.
there, love you guys and keep the action going, everyone. See you soon. Peace. And let's see.